Welcome to Anywhere the Needle Drops. I am your host, Justin Flagel. If you're new to the show, we are here to cover all things music and culture in the Michiana area, as well as the larger Michigan region, and even sometimes the nation. That's right. We're here for the music. We're here for the fun. And today we have a lot of fun. I had my guest, Matt Lenny, in the studio here, the Red Chuck studio, and we just got into it. Matt was on fire. I think we fired off one or two questions and it was off to the races. Matt just lit right up and we dove into this epic journey about where he is in this moment of music and how that story translates through the creation of a track that he is calling Blacktop Highway. And as you'll hear from the conversation, Blacktop Highway is heavily inspired by the song Smokestack Lightnin. And I can't say too much about it. It's just this epic journey. It's crazy. We're in this moment and Matt just takes us on a ride. It's a saga. It's so much fun. You're going to get to hear that song throughout the episode here today. And Matt has coordinated with us. He's actually going to be releasing that track in conjunction with this episode released today. So if you're listening to this on release day, or after, that song, Blacktop Highway, is now available through, the various outlets that Matt Lenny uses. You can head on over to his Bandcamp page, that's mattlenny.bandcamp.com, or his SoundCloud page, which is soundcloud.com/MattLennyMusic, and of course that will all be in the show notes. Check out the song, check out the rest of what Matt has going on, and keep an eye on his website. He's always playing, local shows, solo, and sometimes he's even got some band stuff going on. So, big thanks to Matt. This was a fun conversation, and again, it's just a fun journey. So, I'll say no more. Let's get to it.
Blacktop Highway, smokestacks in the wind.
right. Well, cool. Matt, Lenny, welcome to the show. Thanks for coming on.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah. So, what's been going on since the last time we talked? Because we have talked before.
Gosh, that's a good question. Not much sleeping, I'll tell you that.
All right.
I got kids and work and try to do music too, and so it's always fun to try to juggle all those things.
Yeah, you're one of those full timers. You got the full time job, you got the artistry, and then you've got the family too.
Yeah,
so,
I'm not bored.
Yeah, I bet. I don't have the latter. However, I did just buy a new house, and so I'm settling into that.
Yeah.
So I've
That's
been
a process.
Running a little ragged, So yeah. So, but it's good to get you on here. I know we had a couple of hiccups along the way trying to get this all connected, but
scheduling, illness,
so that's the
how
way
you feeling,
it goes.
by the way?
Much better.
Good.
Yeah. I healed up just in time to take a trip to Alabama at a conference.
Oh wow!
I think the week after we were supposed to do this before.
Very cool.
And I was like, oh, I don't have to miss that. And thankfully, I was feeling great the weekend before.
What was the conference?
So I'm the chair of Niles Main Street.
Okay.
And so it's an organization, it's a national organization, and the whole focus is in individual cities and towns, they work to revive and keep vital
cool.
downtown spaces.
Yeah.
And so, there are ones in little cities, little towns, all the way up to big metropolitan areas. And once a year, it's a national organization. We all gather together, share ideas, attend lectures and learn stuff and, go see sites and that sort of a thing.
So you mean you're against everything becoming a bombed out middle with a Walmart and a KFC on the outskirts?
100%. Wow. I can say without reservation.
I'm pro Walmart and KFC.
One of my favorite things to do, we often get complaints down here about not having enough parking in downtown Niles, which irks me to no end because mathematically, we have so much parking.
Right.
The parking issues we do have, and I'm not afraid to go on record on this because it's an active problem we're currently dealing with. The only parking issues we do have is we have business owners or employees or tenants downtown that tend to hog the spots right in front of their businesses.
Sure.
And we're like, hey,
seems a bit self-defeating.
Yeah, maybe that should be there for your customer. I don't know. Take a look. And then, when people are like, there's nowhere to walk. And I'm like, there are so many parking lots. And then speaking of Walmart, we do this trick where we get a picture of the Walmart parking lot and we interlay it with the downtown map, same scale. We're like, if you go to Walmart, you're parking here to walk in here. Right. And then probably to the back of the store. You are so much closer downtown.
It's just on the other side of a building.
Exactly. Yeah, it's all psychological. So
for what it's worth, I parked very quickly across the street. So.
Okay. But you're a guest, so
That's right.
Yeah. So this is Parking Talk with Justin and Matt.
That's right.
So
I feel like we've accomplished our goals.
That's right. Yeah. Yeah. So busy. Anything new on the music front? I mean, I know you had the album come out that we discussed before. So I don't know where you're at with things now.
Yeah, it's been I was kind of thinking about like what were we going to talk about, because it's kind of a weird season for me musically at the moment, which I decided I'll just be kind of forthright about that.
Okay. Yeah.
I've been. So I have shows coming up, which is cool. I'm playing a show. I don't know when this will be online, but I got a show on May 26th at Side Yard Sawyer, so that'll be fun.
Good place, yeah.
And I think I've just been kind of, I guess the simplest thing would be I've been sort of wrestling with the electric guitar would be maybe the simplest way to say it. So I made this record for the Birds, and it was my kind of mission statement to myself for that was I wanted to write songs that were very much driven by the acoustic guitar, and that sort of, I think Tom Petty said this, and I'm sure a lot of other people said this, but the idea that like if you can't play it on one guitar, one instrument and sing it and make it work, then the song's no good.
Okay,
and so I was like, all right, I'm gonna really like take that to heart. So for making that record, I wrote a bunch of songs, and my process was basically like write them, record a crappy demo on my iPhone, right, and then sort of get it to a point and revise and so on and so on, until I was like, well, that iPhone demo sounds kind of cool, and the idea behind that was that I knew I wanted to make that record with a band, which I did, but I wanted it to be something that I could sort of get on stage by myself and perform and have it work, right? Because I'm lucky to have great musical collaborators, very lucky in that regard, but less lucky that we don't all live, in the same spot, sort of, years in life, as, we're all kind of spread out.
Sure,
right? So,
yeah.
And then so I played acoustic guitar in almost all of that record, but there were a couple tunes that really had this, like, had a more of an electric guitar energy, and kind of getting back into that. I just sort of was like feeling this weird like pull back towards like electric guitar stuff, which I have some weird resistance to.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, it's like, and if this is like way too nerdy and like, hey man,
oh no, we're here for the nerds, the nerdy. So yeah, hit me.
So I when I started out, electric guitar was like my, that was what led me to music, right? I was like a huge Led Zeppelin fan. I was a lonely 15-year-old in Oklahoma, and like rock and roll was very much the thing that kind of got me through that, Sure. I was like,
I recall you saying something about being like the artsy nerd in the town of football or something along those lines.
Yeah. I grew up in Connecticut mostly, like in the East Coast. And then when I was 15, we moved. My dad got a different job, and we moved to Tulsa. And I think we all just completely underestimated the degree of culture shock that was going to follow. And so, my joke is like I was like the chubby, arty, nerdy kid, like living next to Yale, right? And then I was moved to Tulsa, so then I was the chubby, arty, nerdy kid in like the land, like football and all that stuff.
Cornfields and football.
Yeah. And like I'm not saying there aren't football fans in Connecticut, but it's not the sort of level of like the Bible Belt and the sort of whatever Southern football macho thing. I was just like, man, I was a total fish out of water. And so, and I'd had a lot of like, I got really lucky in that, like, to this day, some of my closest friends I met in 7th grade. So I had like really, really close friends in Connecticut, and then I'm in Oklahoma, and like everyone's like, what's wrong with that kid? And to be fair, I was probably pretty obnoxious, but
we all are at that age.
15's rough.
Yeah.
My other stock joke is like, walking down the street's awkward when you're 15, let alone moving halfway across the country. So I fell into guitar. I think it was like just a lifeline that I kind of grabbed onto, and I think that the music I was really drawn to was stuff that had that felt kind of grand in some way, that felt like exciting and grand, and felt like maybe I could someday be cool, and like and like that life could be exciting. I was like I think I was like, I definitely am like a head person, like I'm not, I think too much. And so I think I was really drawn to, things like Led Zeppelin, because it's like, that's not deeply intellectual music in a lot of ways. You know what I mean? Like, I think those guys seem really, really smart. Like, if you hear Robert Plant interviewed, he's hilarious. He's clearly like whip smart and hilarious, right? But the music has this kind of just visceral quality to it, and it also sounds otherworldly. There's a of all the blues based rock and roll bands, they were always my favorite, because it sounds like it was made on, the joke is it sounds like it's like made by the Norse gods or something. It's like but there's something true to that. That's why it's sort of perennially like being discovered by 15-year-olds everywhere. And it keeps happening because
to this day, right?
And so that's what really drew me into it, and I think it felt like a path to sort of get out of my own way. Do you know what I mean? To like have a place where my thinking mind did not rule the world.
Sure. Yep. Something we could all use. I think particularly artsy, creative people.
Yeah. And that was, and I remember, we're off on a tangent now, but I remember when the moment that really hooked me is I'd been learning to play, and I think it was like just something to do, and it was like, and it connected me to something that was I really loved. But I remember I was in a a jazz band at the school I went to, and I had no business being in a jazz band. Like, I mean, I did not, like, I could read the chord shapes and kind of like, but I couldn't read music. I mean, I've been playing guitar for like a year and a half or something.
Sure, yeah.
Absolutely no business being in the jazz band. But
well, wasn't your first gig like a priest or someone at a, was it a church camp? Someone was like, here's a guitar, play it. And you're like, I don't know how to play guitar. And they didn't believe you, or what was this?
That is actually how I got started playing guitar. So I had seen a guitar. I had friends who played guitar. And so, I knew like I could play a G chord if you gave me 3 minutes to get my fingers in place,
Sure, yeah.
But I definitely did not play guitar in any meaningful way. And I went on a youth group retreat when we got there. And
this was in Oklahoma?
This was in Oklahoma,
okay.
Yep. And the youth pastor, I guess, I don't know, the youth group leader, I don't know, we went, it was one of these, like, you go and stay in some cabins or whatever, and it's like, and every night there was going to be like people singing white people Jesus songs, which are like really really very like,
that is such a perfect label for that. I mean, yes,
it's like watered down folk and rock and roll, all about it's fine, whatever. So he said, oh, here, Matt, you play guitar, right? I want you to provide the music every night. And I'm like, I don't play guitar.
Was it like a long hair thing, or what was the?
I definitely did not. No one would have looked at me at that age and thought that guy's a rocker, or like, no. I mean, I don't know. I have no idea why he did it. And he argued with me. He's like, stop kidding around. Yes, you do. And we went back and forth like this, like several minutes. And I just was like, I don't know how to play guitar. And he's like, all right, fine. Well, and he handed me a guitar anyway. And he's like, just do what that guy does. And there was one of the other leaders, I guess. And so I started playing guitar sitting sort of in front of like 30 other kids, just desperately trying to figure out what the guy next to me was doing with his fingers. And so it was 3 days of this. And so by the end of it, my fingers were like bleeding and everything, but I could play.
Yeah.
And I asked him years later, like, why did you do that? He had no memory of doing it.
Really?
Yeah.
That's funny.
So, depending on where you fall on this, I was either, legitimately, on a mission from God. I was like literally called by God to play guitar, and, he was the vessel, or he was very forgetful, or he had some other, I have no idea, but that's how I started playing guitar.
It worked out, whatever it was. So
I mean, questionably, but and then I played guitar like in the church every Sunday, and that was kind of how I learned to play. But it was all very, electric guitar kind of focused.
Sure.
I don't know what we're talking about anymore.
Well, all those tangents came from wrestling with the electric guitar currently. So
I thought I wanted to be a rocker. That's what I was going to say. I was in this jazz band, and we had all these songs that I could just barely comp my way through the chords, which was probably really good for me. But we did one song that was a guitar feature, and it was Purple Haze. It was a big band arrangement of Purple Haze. So,
all right.
Like you do.
Yeah.
And so we went on this school. I spent about 2 weeks in the public school before my parents were like, this is going to be a disaster. So I was like in a little private school, which was its own weird thing. But
wait. Because the school was bad, or because you did not get what you needed from that?
The school was not great at the things that I needed. Okay. So I think a bit of both. Like, and I was really into language and arts and stuff. And like I was a sophomore and already in the most advanced like French class they had, for instance. And like I would have had, and then like I was in all this sort of top class. I was a nerd, so I was in all the top classes, and like I think what caused my mom to finally be like, this isn't going to work. I was miserable, but also there was a period there where like for several weeks in a row I had no homework, or I would do all of my homework on the bus on the way to school, which was like a 15-minute ride.
Yeah.
And so my mom finally went in and asked about this because, clearly my future was not in. I was not an athlete. I was, I was like going the nerd path, and so and I remember she asked about it. She said, my son's had no homework for several weeks. And the guidance counselor looked at her and said, ma'am, it's football season. And I mean, we just, this was like nothing in our lives had prepared us for this being like that, even being a concept that would be the reason I wouldn't have homework. Was just, so she pulled me out that day. So I was at this private school, which was good academically and had a lot of artistic opportunities but was also its own ball of weird because it was a lot of like very old oil money and things like that. Like one kid got dropped off every day in a chauffeured Rolls Royce.
Oh,
yeah, it was real. It was like
yeah.
Like the first day you could drive to school when you get your license, you borrow your parents' car and you drive to school.
Yeah, you feel so cool. Yeah.
And so I drove to school in my parents' minivan. I'm like, park. And then a '67 Mustang convertible pulled up on one side of me, and a Porsche pulled up on the other side of me, driven by my also 16-year-old classmates. And I was like, all right,
that's a scene out of a movie right there.
Yeah, it's just so. But I was in this jazz band, and we went to this like festival where other private schools, it was like, would get together and have an arts festival. And so there was theater and there was music and there was, and that was a legitimately really great thing for me at that age.
Sure. Yeah.
So I was in this jazz band, and I remember we had a concert slot, and it was at lunchtime, I remember, because we're outside on this outdoor stage. I think we're in Texas somewhere, maybe, I don't know. And, all the kids were eating lunch, and we had our little 20-minute concert or whatever. Yeah. And so it comes to, Purple Haze, and I do the song or whatever, and then it comes to the guitar solo. And so I step up, and I've got my pentatonic scale down. I got like my basic blues rock book of licks ready to go, and all of a sudden just time stopped. Like I was like, I guess you'd call it a flow state or whatever, but I just viscerally remember being on stage, and all of a sudden I just knew I couldn't hit a wrong note. And I remember thinking to myself, like, I wonder what note I should play next. I think I'll do that one. And then like going to that, and like it felt like I had time to think about it, and it was very much, I was totally out of myself, and it was the music was happening, and I was the sort of driver of it, but I just could do no wrong. Yeah. And you'd think, maybe this is just my own perception, but I remember playing, and I remember looking over at the band leader, and I remember him being like, his eyes like wide open, his mouth open, and just like staring at me like, what the? And then he did the signal to like go around again. So he like doubled the soloing. So I played it, and got done, and then back to being chubby, pimply 15-year-old me or 16-year-old me or whatever. And it was like, but in that moment, I had touched it. You know what I mean? Like the thing that I always thought like maybe I could do that. Like, I did it. And there's like one 16-year-old kid in Texas who vaguely recalls like, sounds like a good guitar player. Yeah, I don't know. Or maybe nobody but me remembers this, but like it was a thing that I was absolutely completely outside of any self-doubt, and it was like a moment of purity. And I know it was real because a few other people saw it, and commented on it afterward. And so that was just, I was like, I want to do that, both because apparently I can, and also, I felt really cool for like, for like that minute-long stretch,
It's like you found your moment, right? Yeah. You just found your place.
Yeah, it was, and to be free of just all the crippling, pointless self-talk and perfectionism, and to just get to a place where something's happening and I'm a part of it, but I'm not. I don't know. It was a life-changing moment, and
yeah. I mean, I 100% get that. Like for me, my art is typically writing, so very passive, solitary. But I do like event hosting, and I found my place on a microphone in front of a crowd, and I will get into those flow states on occasion. I just had one the other day, and it was something as silly as hosting a trivia night. Sure. But I discovered about myself, I don't know, 7-8 years ago, that I'm really good with the crowd on the microphone, and I'm always pretty good, but then every once in a while I hit that flow state where it's just like, I can do no wrong. This crowd is mine to do with as I please, right? Exactly. Yep. And I just had one of those the other day, and I remembered why I do these bother hosting trivia nights or bingo or whatever. And it's not because of the games or any of that. It's because I have a crowd and I have a microphone, and I can every once in a while get one of those moments where I'm like, yeah, all right, you know,
And that's the thing, is it's kind of like, it's like both good and bad that happened so early for me, because you know, when you're young, you're just think like, oh, pretty soon I'll be able to do that all the time, you know, and then you realize like, like you could, you know, to really fully get there, I think even the best artists aren't touching it. You know, it's like Major League Baseball. Like if you're batting 300 or something, you're doing pretty well. You know what I mean? And like that's the best. And the you know, and the rest of us maybe are batting 100. You know what I mean? And like so there's that. You're hurling yourself at that and trying to touch it, and you know, maybe you get it for a few seconds, and then you go, I'm there. And then as soon as you're like patting yourself on the back, you're out of it, you know? And like,
I think the best example of that I see often is stand-up comedy, you know, because that is an art where very much so you have to fail right in front of the audience before you get to that. And I remember seeing George Carlin, one of the masters. And he came to Benton Harbor. And he performed, and he said before coming on the show, hey, I'm working out material for my new special or whatever my new big thing is. And so we had this unique moment of seeing, because we're a smaller market, you know, so we had this unique moment of seeing him practice and fail a little bit. And of course it's George Carlin. So it was like his low end was still like better than the local open mic. But like, it was like, oh yeah, this guy's got to practice too.
This guy works. Or especially this guy works.
Exactly. Especially, I think.
It's that's the thing, I think. And you know, and I was just reading a book about this, and like, you know, even you were talking about writers, like there's that quote, I think it's David Foster Wallace, like he said something like, okay, I'll mangle the quote, but he was saying that he was writing parts of the book and he was doing so good he stopped being able to feel his own ass in the chair. Like my language, like, right? Like that's a flow state thing where he just like he stepped out of himself. You know, even though for writing, you know, it's you and the laptop or you and the page or whatever, right? But that's still a thing.
For sure.
So I that was the electric guitar for me, and so that was really what I thought I wanted to do. And you know, I went to school and I was in bands and stuff, and I ultimately moved to New York, and I was like, I'm gonna go be a rock and roller, right? And I think basically two things happened. One, I wasn't having any luck finding a singer that I felt was like kind of the partner I was looking for, you know, and you know, very possibly I didn't look as hard or as long as I should have, right? But you know, like, you know, you two all went to high school together, and Radiohead, you know, like a lot of the great bands, like just happened to know each other, and it just became a gang. And you know, I think I always wanted that. And perhaps temperamentally, I was never suited for that in the first place. Very possible. But so I started singing because somebody had to sing. And I wanted to write songs. I knew that was the other kind of thing that I realized really early on, is that I cared a lot about the song, right? And it was very much in a blues rock kind of place to begin with, but I cared a lot about the song. And so I was starting to write, and I needed someone to sing it. And so at some point I was like, I guess I'll try to sing. And good Lord, I was terrible at that for a very, very, very long time. So I started to sing, and so I was kind of doing that, and had this, you know, had some rock band stuff, and I was working at a guitar shop in New York, and we had a lot of pretty cool customers there. It was a shop that's been around since 1965, and you know, like
New York City,
and you know, in our old days, you know, the customers were, you know, Hendrix, Clapton, and Bob Dylan, and you know, and so we still got, when I was working, this was early 2000s, you know, a lot of rock stars and movie stars and stuff, which was real fun. But Steve Earle, the alt country, you know.
I met him at Acorn a couple months back, when he played.
He's a wild man.
He is. He's a really cool dude, though, because he played this amazing show. And then I don't know if they had included this as part of the ticket sales, if there was like a VIP level or something like that. But I know he played this show, and he was clearly exhausted. But he took the time to go hang out in the lobby and meet a bunch of people. And like I was the last one because I was there on work. I was writing the stories, shooting photos and stuff. But I was walking out. I'm like, Steve Earl's standing there. I'm gonna say hi. So I said hi, and he was just so super cool. Clearly very tired, but like down to like talk to the people and appreciate them.
He seems like probably not a great guy to marry based on the fact that he's been married like 11 times.
He actually said that himself on the stage. So yes, I
felt like that was a safe thing. But yeah, I have never had anything but great experiences talking to Steve, and he moved in around the corner. So
nice.
He would come in like almost every day.
Yeah.
And he's hilarious. I mean, that guy's hilarious.
Yeah.
But I really didn't know anything about him because I was not into that realm of music. I was it was David Bowie and Radiohead, and that was becoming my kind of area of focus. And he came in one day, and I think I just started turning my ear to like more Bob Dylan and more of the Hank Williams stuff. So I was like primed for it. But he came in and he picked up like a $300 guitar. It was a little cheap student acoustic guitar, and he strummed a G chord, and I talk about this on my website. I think we talked about this a little bit too, but the thing that we were talking about that flow state, right? And I think that's a kind of magic, right? As Tom Petty says, music is the only real magic he knows about, right? It can change your life. And so we've all had the experience of either making art that just never achieves liftoff, right? Or seeing art that never achieves liftoff, right? Where, and it doesn't, it often is completely divorced from technical skill, right? Like I've certainly seen bands where every single member of the band is a really great technical player, and I am just bored to tears. Yeah. And then I've also seen artists where, a little off key, a little not great, and it's riveting, right? And the hair on the back of your neck stands up, and like that's the thing that I care about, right? And so I was chasing that, right? And you can get that in every flavor, right? Like there's every genre has that, right? And so he picked up a guitar and he strummed a G chord, and every country song ever written walked into the room. It was absolutely the most stunning. One chord, strummed it a couple times, all the hairs in the back of my neck went up, and it had all that power as though he had just, sat down and played a whole song. And then he goes, that's a pretty nice guitar. And he put it back on the rack and walked out. I was like, what? So I picked up the same guitar. I'm thinking that's a magic guitar. Nope, just the G chord.
Okay.
So, it's like, and I just was like, what the hell? Yeah. Because, I'm like in bands and dealing with, loud and lots of notes and band politics and all the crap that comes with trying to have a band and collaborate with other insecure, sensitive, ego-driven people in their 20s and try like all the super fun that comes with that and all the super annoying things that come with that. And then like this guy walks in and plays like a one chord and just does the thing that I'm trying to do, and it absolutely exploded my brain. And I just was like, that's the most pure form. Like we're over here drinking light beer. I got to play like, 300 notes to like make that happen. And, he's like kablooey, one chord. And so I fell really hard into that. And also I think I was pretty frustrated with, keeping a band together is hard. Yeah. It's really, it's hard. And, I think it appealed to me the idea like, wait, I can do that by myself? Like, what? So I got really into that. So I started kind of pursuing the other part of this is that, again, I referenced that I was not a great singer. And so I think one of the things that I found really challenging about the music I wanted to make and with the band is that I felt like the music I was making, the music was really strong. Like I had a really good band and we did some stuff I'm pretty proud of musically. Yeah. But I hated my own voice. I hated how my voice sounded because all the rock and roll that I'm a fan of is, like who have I mentioned so far? Led Zeppelin, Radiohead, David Bowie. These are all like, love them or hate them, these are not simple songs to sing.
Sure.
Right?
Yeah.
And these are, and almost any music that I really like, the singer, there's a certain amount of range that they have and power that they have, and like maybe a grittiness to their voice. Like literally none of those qualities described my voice at the time, right?
Yeah.
Like, barely palatable might be the most like accurate description of my voice at the time. And so, you know, one of the advantages of some of the kind of acoustic songs I was learning is that, you know, like I love John Prine, but no one would say John Prine is like a masterful technical singer. I think he's a masterful singer in terms of delivering a song. Yeah. It's surprisingly hard to do it as well. Like how many covers of Angel from Montgomery have you heard that are not as good as this, right? So
exactly.
It's like, but it's not technically daunting. It's not a super wide range. It's not, you know, it's not, you don't have to have lots of power. You just have to have a lot of honesty, and you have to have a lot of spirit, and, you know, you have to have a somewhat of a technical foundation. You got to be able to hit the notes, but like, but that felt sort of attainable. And so, we're eventually getting to the point here. What happened was I started to feel this real pull where I felt like what my guitar wanted to do was like loud rock and roll electric guitar stuff. What my voice worked for was not that.
Okay.
And so I started finding, I went and I recorded a record. The first, I think, record that I think is actually good. It was called The Waiting Room. They were all songs that I had written on an acoustic guitar. I had made this big rock and roll record, and there's drama around it and all this kind of stuff. And I just was like, ugh. And so I was like, I need to go so I wrote all these songs, acoustic guitar, and I put together a band, we recorded it, and we did it fast. And it was like, and you know, there's some clunkers on there, but there's some songs on there that to this day I still play.
All right.
And it was not a loud rock and roll record. I played mostly acoustic guitar, mostly rhythm guitar. And it was the first time anything I'd made seemed to matter to anybody.
Okay.
So, which started a very long period where basically a lot of people would say to me, like, I would get compliments on my guitar playing. I played in a lot of bands, and people would always sort of be like I had friends who were like, oh, you're the best guitar player in New York City, which was never true, but I appreciate the sentiment, right?
As Steve Earle walks out of the
yeah, exactly. And you know, all
store.
those, I mean, Mark Rebo and any number of, you know, session, I mean, not even close to the best guitar, but there was a certain, that was the thing that people would comment on.
Sure,
was my guitar playing, and it was usually, you know, rock and roll, electric guitar, or lead guitar playing in my own band or in other bands. So that was always the thing that people were like, that really makes an impression. It felt like I could make an impression with that. But only recordings I ever made that anyone ever gave a crap about were acoustic songwriter recordings.
Yeah.
So it was this really weird, like, what?
Yeah, yeah.
Because it's like, lean into your strengths. I'm like, yeah, cool, guitar. Wait, oh no, nobody ever likes that. And so I literally, like, I made like a big rock record, like later with, you know, I took a lot of voice lessons. I was getting my voice to where I could sort of start to maybe touch it a little, and made a big rock record and got some good reviews and everything. Nobody talks about that record.
Yeah.
I don't know anybody who says anything about that record. It's a pretty good record.
Yeah.
Nobody seems to. And then every time I make like an acoustic driven record, people are like, you know, like like our neighbors, like I made an acoustic record where we used to live, like this happened a few times. Like the neighbors, like, you know, I played it and the kids love it. This is our road music. It was the whole family listens to this album over and over again. I'm like, okay, that's awesome.
That's that thing though that you're talking about, that we're talking about, because it's you know, it's not that technical thing. It's not that measurable thing.
No.
You're talking about aiming for something that there's no direct path to, and sometimes you end up there, you don't even know how you got there, right? There's no way to measure, but except for when someone's like, this is our road trip music now. I mean, like,
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
and that's what you want, right? You want to make something that somehow matters to someone else, right?
Yeah.
Like, because that's what it meant so much to me. So, I guess somebody more snobby or less desperate would say like, oh great, like I'm appealing to 10-year-olds and their moms. Like, but I think it's friggin' great, man.
Yes.
10-year-olds don't lie.
Yes,
like,
that's right.
So
Yeah,
if that's music that the whole family can agree on and is making them happy, like, man, that's absolutely everything I want. You know?
Yeah. Well, and honestly, I think, I don't know if it's as much of a thing as it once was, but I just don't know that there's a place for that kind of snobbery. We had Brian Vander Ark, the Verve Pipe. He was on. In fact, the episode will release next week. But he was talking about The Freshman, the song that everyone knows him for, and how thankful he was for that song because there are a lot of artists in his position that could hate that song and hate when people request it. And he's like, no, this song clearly resonates with people. It's given me a career. And so who am I to like be mad about that? I mean, that's such a cool attitude to have with that kind of thing.
I think someone once asked Don McLean what American Pie meant. And he said, it means I never have to work again.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
It's like, yeah, right on.
That's right. Yes.
So I think that's like that tension really, like when I say I'm wrestling with that, I have still not fully resolved that tension because I made this record for the Byrds, and that was, again, I was trying to keep pursuing that because it felt, for the reasons I said at the beginning, it seemed logical, it seemed like something I'd do, and also I really do genuinely love and have been trying to learn more and more of, the tradition. It's shockingly hard to play country music, in my opinion. It's sort of like blues, like, in the sense that it's easy to play it badly, like real easy to play it badly, not a lot of chords, real simple, really shockingly nearly impossible to play it like really right, you know, and like, beware of anyone who's like, yeah, I can play blues. It's like, yeah, well, just that attitude right there tells me you can't. Yeah. And so, I genuinely like that and have been pursuing that. And so I made this record, and, to my shock and irritation, the songs that seem to resonate the most on that record are the ones that are the most electric.
Oh, really?
So I'm like, what the hell?
Where am I?
Yeah.
The universe is sending you mixed signals, that's for certain. Yeah.
Absolutely. So there's one song in the garden that is like kind of is acoustic and is very country, kind of a weird, kind of my take on a weird country gospel-y kind of thing. And there's something about that song that has some power, and something about it that sometimes I feel like I can't play my own song, if that makes sense. Like every once in a while I wrote it. You'd think I was able to play it. Yeah. Every once in a while I really play the crap out of it, and it's like, and it's got all this power, and like, I can hush a crowd with that song when I do it right. Yeah. A lot of times I'm bored by myself playing that song, and I can't figure out what the difference is. I've been trying. Yeah. But there's a few songs, like Spinning Bells is one, or there's a song Find Your Gold, which...
Yeah, that's a great song. Love that song.
Thank you. Yeah. I'm like sort of happy with the recording, mostly because of my own... I hadn't been playing much electric guitar, and I'm like the big guitar solo on it, and I am sort of relentlessly evil to myself, and so I'm like, that's not a very good guitar solo. And it was all done live, so I was like, I couldn't change it, so that's the solo. And I knew I meant it, so I just was like, all right, well, I guess we'll have to hope the intention came through. But live, that's the one that always gets the comments. It's not like... And so I got kind of through... we put out the record, did some promotions, I went to like a really cool like folk festival and did some stuff, and then I just found myself being like, I don't know what to do next. Like I'm feeling, when I listen to my own record, which is a dangerous undertaking. Sure. Yeah. I'm pretty drawn to the electric-y stuff too. And I sometimes I feel like I like and respect a lot of the acoustic music. Like I really intellectually love it, but I don't viscerally love it in the same way. I don't know if that's a true statement, because there are times when I viscerally love it. Sometimes I sort of think I've like it's more of an acquired taste, if that makes sense. Sure. Yeah. I mean, it certainly is, right? Yeah. I don't know if that makes it less true, but there are days when I feel like I can love Gillian Welch like till the cows come home, but I'll never love it as viscerally as like, you know, just like a great guitar riff.
Sure.
You know?
Sure. Yeah.
And I do love Gillian Welch, you know, so.
Yeah.
But like, you know, a great Spoon song or like and so I've been kind of just trying to figure that out, like in the last few months, like interrogating myself, and making music, but not taking the pressure away to share it.
Yeah. So I was going to ask you, what does that look like? So, I mean, are you just, I mean, it's almost like you're in like a dark room just feeling around. That's what it kind of sounds like. So.
I'm not going to say I've never sat in a dark room and just felt sorry for myself. So a few things that I've done. So part of it was just playing a lot more electric. I've been, you know,
For yourself, not necessarily out at shows, but
yeah,
okay.
Mostly because I didn't really have any shows booked and I didn't have a band. So
right,
I, you know, I made a playlist of songs. The one piece of advice I read in a songwriting book was like, make a playlist of 15 songs that are bedrock for you, that are like, you know, whatever else you love, these are like the foundation.
Yeah.
And so that was. That took me a month. And then I thought, you know, okay, these are all songs, and some of them were electric, some of them were acoustic. And so I thought, you know, maybe an experiment I could do would be, I do really like music that has a little bit of I like the unexpected somewhat. Like I like people who have a command of a tradition and then subvert it a little. You know, I really am a sucker for that. And so I thought I had songs on there, like for instance, "Smokestack Lightnin" by Howlin' Wolf was on there, and you know, immortal classic blues tune. It's like, are you familiar with it?
I'm digging through my archives right now in my head. I'm not getting it. I mean,
I won't embarrass myself or anyone else by trying to sing it right here, but it's on a riff. It doesn't ever change chords. It's just like an E, and it has this cool riff, and I guess I have to sing part of it. There's the part that's the hook is like, oh, smokestack lightning shining just like gold, don't you hear me crying? And this is the part. Oh, oh, oh. That little lick.
Yeah.
And you know, it's you hear him do it because
sure, yeah.
But that lick, that to me, when he does that, and it's got this great groove, and he sounds like he gargles barbed wire in the morning. He's got that kind of voice, and that little melody line, that falsetto kind of jump melody, the second I heard it, I was like, that's like a Radiohead. That's something like Tom York would sing. Mm-hmm. And so I had also on my playlist, I had Body Snatchers by Radiohead.
Sure.
Was on. And so I was like, I kind of had this idea, like, what if I learned every song on this list to play it, learn to play it, right? Like, learn to sing it, which I finally, after 20 years of voice lessons, I can now sing all these things. So I can sing a Led Zeppelin song now. I can sing a Radiohead song. So I was like, all right, maybe I have the tools now that if I had when I was 25, I would have been set.
Yeah.
why don't I learn these songs? And my idea was like, I'm going to learn Smokestack Lightnin'. And then I do have a home studio and I have collaborators. We're not all in the same place, but we can all record at home. I thought, you know, maybe it'd be a fun exercise to like learn the cover and then try to record it. And the rule was, for this theoretical experiment, was that I would learn the song and then record it, but I had to take an idea or a mood or an arrangement concept from a different song on the playlist.
Oh, all right.
So like in this case, what if I imagined what would Radiohead sound like playing Smokestack Lightnin' by Howlin' Wolf, right?
Yeah.
Or like another song on there is Streets of Baltimore, I think was on my list, by Bobby Bear. It's a cool old classic country song. And I was like, to my mind, like there's something in the arrangement of that tune that I'm like, I could sort of hear a Spoon kind of weird angular keyboards approach. So the idea was like, whatever you're doing, take a page from one of these other artists, and see what happens when you mash them up. Because if my DNA is some fundamental combination of these things, why not see what happens when I sort of mash them up together? So I recorded Smokestack Lightnin with the idea that I was going to do it sort of like Radiohead, which meant taking the original key up, because I don't have any grit in my voice really in the place where he sings it. But if you bring it up high enough, I get into kind of a tenor rock kind of a thing, and that would be, so I bring it up a key, and then like, you know, the drums get a little more just like straight ahead and like a little bigger sounding, and the guitar, you know, has some delays, and I can share it with you. We recorded this.
That'd be great. Yeah, I'd love to hear that. Yeah.
And it took me like a month, because one of the questions is, the two questions were like, what do I want to do, right? And also, what does my voice work for? Because I think the other thing I realized in this last year was that guitar was my first love, but to this day, it's not the thing that makes a difference in whether I like a band or not. The thing that actually makes a difference for me is the singer.
Yeah.
So that's the difference between, like, you know, like I hear a lot of bands where they have really cool riffs, and cool guitar player, and cool they sound great, and as soon as the singer starts, I'm just like, ugh, because it's just like macho blues rock cliche nonsense. Great singer, blah blah blah. Like, I couldn't do what he's doing, but like, boring.
Yeah.
And like,
been there, done that.
Yeah. And the same thing, doesn't matter the genre. Like, if the singer's voice, and it could be, you know, it could be a great singer with all the technical chops in the world. It could be like a really not great singer who I just really like how they sound, right? Like, but the singer is the key. So I'm like, all right, if that's true, I have to figure out what I can sing. I have to apply that rule to my own music. So like, to some extent, what I want to sing matters, but like when I hear it back, what do I like? And so that was kind of part of it. So I was like, oh, I really like Smokestack Lightnin, and like, I'm totally live in fear of every possible, like, oh, great, another white guy playing the blues kind of accusation. Yeah, I've heard that, and hey, I agree with it.
Yeah,
like, you know, but like, can I sing that song? Like, I can't deny that song speaks to me in some visceral way. And there's something in that song that has like there's like a dread in that song, and it's like, there's a loneliness and an eeriness to it. And I was like, okay, can I communicate all that?
Yeah.
And man, it took a long time to figure out how to do it, maybe. Yeah. And I'll have to just let someone else judge if I did. But like, I did it well enough that I didn't. This is the high bar for me. I listened to it and I was like, I don't absolutely hate that, which is like, cool. That's like a win. So, so that's the thing we did. And then out of that, I ended up doing that. I did these guitar overdubs, because there's a harmonica is like the sort of lead instrument on. There's like a guitar riff, and then there's a harmonica is like the sort of big thing. And so I was like, well, I can't do like a classic sort of. It needs solos, or it needs instrumental parts for the song to sort of have its power, I think. But I don't want to just do like here's a blues guitar solo. I want to do something different. So I ended up writing these kind of weird, kind of Radioheady, kind of Pink Floydy, like almost like a harmonized fuzz guitar lead part. Yeah. Which I was like, it's really cool. It's like creepy. It doesn't sound like the harmonica solo at all, but it communicated some of that. To me, it communicated some of that same like eeriness that the original recording has, and it's gritty. And so, so I was like very much sound designing as I went and everything. And then that kind of inspired, I wrote some new lyrics. Because I was like, those parts really triggered something. So I like wrote some lyrics. And then those lyrics kind of wanted a slightly different guitar riff. So then what I ended up doing was I had a full recording of my version, for better or worse, of Smokestack Lightnin. Yeah. And then I was like, I kept the drums, and I kept the lead guitar parts, and I rewrote the rhythm guitar riff and rewrote the melody and the lyrics and re-recorded it. So then I have this weird song, which is now called Blacktop Highway. Which is, all right. Totally indebted to and steals the, like, totally rips that off. Smokestack Lightnin. I've just exposed myself to many copyright infringement lawsuits, but whatever, it's true. And so I have this song now, and then I thought there was something really interesting there, and so then the bass player put a new bass line on it, and this guy Mike plays keys I've been working with. He put some cool keyboard parts on it, and then I did all this like sculpting where like the song kind of almost like explodes at the end, like, you know, studio trickery.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
And it got done, and I think two things happened. I think it's like a really cool track. Like it's definitely, I sang really well on it, staying in ways and things that I couldn't have done a year ago. Even like there's some rock and roll singing on there, and
sure.
and there's an honesty to it, and everyone played great, and it has a mood, and it has an arc, and so in a lot of ways, I think it's a great track in a lot of ways, and I felt utterly drained when we were done.
I mean, that's like an epic journey that you just went through.
But I didn't feel drained in a good way.
Oh, okay.
I felt hollowed out.
Yeah.
Like, and like really, it made me actively like unhappy.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay. Because that sounds like it'd be kind of a fascinating journey.
Yeah.
You know?
And it was in some ways. Like it was, you know, everyone I collaborated with was great to work with, and I'm proud of what I came up with, and it was interesting, and you know, I certainly used sort of a lot of my skills and everything. But yeah, I felt really like it really made me, like it took me a month and a half to recover.
Oh wow. So you're saying there's not going to be an entire album of these?
Well, so then I was like, what's that all about?
Yeah.
And I think my active theory, I think the first thing that I realized it's about is that logically it would make a lot of sense for me to make a lot of music this way, because it overcomes the restrictions I have, which is that I have great collaborators, but we're not all in the same place. I don't have an endless budget to fly everybody to fancy studios to record, right?
Yeah.
I have obligations that like mean a lot to me, and so I can't just like run off and do a million shows and do, you know, but I can get to my home studio for, you know, some hours every week, right? And so it makes a lot of sense to make recordings this way, especially if like the recording turns out pretty well.
Yeah.
But I think what I realized is that I don't like to do, it doesn't feed my soul, to use, that's like very woo-woo, I guess, but like it doesn't, I live for the moment with other people in music. And so that could be me on stage solo with an audience, right? That moment when the song comes in the room and everybody feels it, like that's the thing that I love. Or when I have a band practice and you get in the zone and you're all like in it together, that's the thing that I want. Mm-hmm. And so building a track at home, piece by piece, I think felt absent. That felt absent. Even when I've done enough recording that I think I'm pretty good at like getting myself in the zone with myself, but like I'm not trying to commune with my laptop. Yeah. Do you know what I'm saying? Like I day job, I work at my computer all day. Like the last thing I want is like more me in the digital world, right? And so I think that's why when I got done, I felt like I'd done all of the hard work without, and somehow missed the thing that I needed. Yeah. Which is that I was a lonely, stuck in my own head kid, and that's what drew me to music, so that I could get out of that. Yeah. So I could end up in my 40s being a lonely, like alienated kid, like not communing with, like it, I think that's why, like I think the track's cool. Yeah. But I can barely listen to it now because I just felt really gross when I was done.
Sure. Yeah.
And so entirely possible that that's like, I'm calling it a demo.
Okay.
And I'm happy to share the demo with you. I can share both the tracks. I'll share
I mean, I would love to hear them.
Yeah.
Yes.
I give you the Smokestack Lightnin and Blacktop Highway, and you know, they're not out yet. And I don't know if I'll ever officially put them out, but they're on SoundCloud. I can make them available for you.
Cool. Yeah. Yeah.
I don't know what I'll do with it, but it was, I'm calling it a demo because, you know, maybe I'll get together with other musicians and we'll play it, and I'll feel totally differently about it because it'll now be a collaborative thing. So that's probably the biggest thing I'm doing. I've been putting together a local band, trying to like explore, playing more electric guitar, trying to figure out like, okay, you know, why just wrestling with it. Like why, like, so I had one theory, right? Which was like, all right, I'm going to make a bunch of recordings. Cause I really love the studio and like that one did not work. So, I don't want to repeat that process.
Sure. So now you're bringing in local collaborators. You can have some communing, you know. And,
still trying to just sort of square the circle on like, I just took the pressure off. I haven't sent anything to my mailing list in months. I just totally like I should be doing that. I should. I'm very good at telling myself what I should do.
Yeah.
And I decided like, you know, I'm just gonna take some time and try to engage with this sort of actively on my own. And you know, my electric guitar skills are much better than they were.
Yeah.
Like, because I mean, I literally hadn't played electric guitar in like years.
Yeah.
When I made the record. And so you know, playing a lot and, it's gratifying to have my old skills and some of my new skills all kind of come into the fore. And, you know, I can get to that moment where, I'm riding the wave. Right. And I can, and that's still there. And I think I'm just trying to figure out, like, you know, I'm a perfectionist, and I'm.
That is a word that I recall in our last conversation coming up. If not the word perfectionism, the concept.
Yeah.
That is something about you that I noted throughout the course of that conversation. It was always there. You're always on this journey to get,
get past it.
Get just past a little, but also you seem to recognize it as an obstacle.
It's 100% an obstacle.
Yeah.
And I think I've also realized that. I think one of the fears that I've always had is that, like, what if I get a great band and then lose it? Like, you know, I mentioned I made this loud rock trio record. It was called The Beat Hounds, and with these producers, and the record is really good. And I think the reason it never kind of went anywhere is because I was so attuned to the musicians I was playing with in the studio and certain types of rock and roll. I think certain types of rock and roll are sort of, doesn't really matter who plays it as long as they do a good job. Like, for instance, like anyone can play a Tom Petty song, and if they're good, you'll be like, that's a great song. But like almost nobody can play a Led Zeppelin song and have you be like, yeah, I don't really want to hear that again.
Yeah.
Right? Like there's 5 good Led Zeppelin covers in the world.
Yeah.
Right. You know, and like, and it's the same thing with like Radiohead. Like, you know, people cover Karma Police. That's a song that's pretty like, you can play it, and I've heard good versions, but like, I don't want to hear anyone else play Paranoid Android.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Whereas, like a Bob Dylan song, right, or a Tom Petty song, you know, anyone who's good, you'll be like, that was great.
Yeah.
Right? And this is, by the way, my pet theory. This is why I think the Beatles have the place in the pantheon that they do, is because their songs are both. They're one of the only artists where the songs are indestructible. Like, anyone could play a Beatles song, and if they do a great job of it, you'll be like, that was awesome.
Yeah. Yeah.
And the Beatles version is almost always the best version.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right? Which is like not necessarily true. Like, Bob Dylan wrote All on March Power. I like his version, but Hendrix's version.
Sure.
Right?
Yeah.
So I think I made a record that accidentally was like really tuned into like those specific players had to play it, and then those guys weren't available to be my band on the road because they were the producers I was working with. So I think that like I think I'm afraid of like getting something and losing it, which is like, you know, hello, we're all gonna die.
Yeah,
like,
that's life,
it's
right?
It's gonna happen no matter what. So I think I've also been interrogating like, am I did I switch to acoustic music for the purity of intentions that I described earlier, or did I also switch to it because it was less likely to, if I don't have a band, they can't betray me.
Can't lose it, right?
And it's not even like I've ever been betrayed by, like, I'm not, like, I want to be very clear. I've had nothing but, I've had arguments, but like, almost everybody I've ever been in a band with, I still talk to, you know what I mean? It's like, so I think I've also been trying to see, like, is this something that I've avoided because I'm afraid I'll get it and then lose it? But, hey, if I get it at all, it's a win, right? Like, I got to be more bold. So it's like, it's perfectionism in a way. I think I've made some real strides in that. But I think that's still a force. But then also, like, there is still something that there is a purity of, I'm trying to find the thing that I think things can feel exciting without being healthy. Mm-hmm. And there are days when I think I'll always have a visceral love for the electric guitar and all those types of things. But I can't deny that some days I play electric guitar and a lot, and then I sort of feel like I did nothing with my day. Mm-hmm. Whereas if I like play a good country song and sing it and then play it really right, I feel like I ate my vegetables.
Yeah.
Like in a like,
yeah.
Like it. So I'm this is all, again, very abstract and probably, I don't know why anyone would find this interesting, but
I'm fascinated because, and so much of this I think reflects, really on life in general. What's fascinating to me especially is that you have this sort of set of challenges and obstacles through your process, but you're also so like self-aware of them. Yeah. And so you're
maybe to my own detriment.
But it's fascinating because it's taking you on this journey, and I am really curious now to see what you come up with as your next project now, because of that journey you just spoke of, and then the results of that, and trying to figure out a way to take all of these things that are like, you've got all these different, threads kind of reaching out. And I'm just going to be fascinated to see how you tie them all together.
You and me both.
So yeah.
I feel like, this is the other thing I'm interrogating is I feel like I want to do something that's, like someone like Neil Young, right, does lots of different styles, but I think there is something to be said for like, okay, do one thing for a bit, and then go do another thing. Don't try to do it all at once, right? Mm-hmm. Because like I want to go deep, right? And so I sort of think my next record's either going to be like a very blues-based rock and roll thing with a lot of electric guitar, or it'll be the complete opposite. I could be wrong, but I do feel this real hunger to simplify, to just be like, I'm gonna put that, whatever it is, down for a bit and really go hard into this, because I think I do myself a disservice by never, sometimes you just gotta be like, I want all these things, but right now I'm pursuing this, and I'll come back to that. And I have a real hard time doing that. Every morning I wake up and say I'm gonna play electric guitar, and every night I go to bed and say like, no, I'm gonna do acoustic. That's, so maybe I'm just like, it's an energy level thing. I don't know, but it's and
it might be too. I mean, some days those vegetables taste good, and other days
100%.
It's just like, I gotta eat these.
100%. It's also, I'm not gonna lie, like, the sort of like electric guitars and bands are loud. Mm-hmm. It's loud.
Yeah.
And my ears ring afterwards, and I have a low level tinnitus from many years of not playing with earplugs and stuff, which is real stupid. And I love the tone of, I love the sound of a rock band. I love that sound, but it doesn't sound the same with earplugs in.
Yeah,
it just doesn't. And I have believe me, I have the multi-$100 molded to your ears. Like, I invested in this, right?
Same, yeah.
It doesn't sound the same.
Yeah.
It sounds good. It sounds better than the foam ones, but it doesn't sound the same.
Yeah.
And, if you're sort of tuning into the little nitty-gritty, nitpicky and nuance, you've seen electric guitar players, they turn the knobs on their guitar every 3 seconds. It's because they're like doing something that only they can hear.
Yeah.
I can't hear that with earplugs in.
It's the difference between, riding, not that I ride motorcycles, but like riding a motorcycle, without the helmet on, feeling the wind in your hair, or putting the helmet on,
that's probably true. I would not know, but I would totally, that literally never occurred to me. But yeah, I would believe that.
Yeah.
So, and there are digital tools make that, more easy. Like it's been a godsend that I can use modeling to play electric guitar in my studio quietly. It sounds the same, that's amazing.
Yeah.
But that's not whereas like, I don't have to worry about that with acoustic guitar. And I do love, you get into music because you love the sound of it. So, there are things that are, sometimes I just wonder if like I'm a little attached to that. Sometimes you have to let go something that you love to get to where you really want to get to.
Yeah.
And there are definitely a lot of days when I think, I love the electric guitar and I have a talent for it. I do. I hope that doesn't sound obnoxious, but I enough people have commented on my electric guitar playing that like, I think there's something there.
I mean, it's okay to know what you're good at. It's okay. That's fine.
Thank you.
Yeah. I give you permission.
Thank you. I appreciate that. See, there it is. But it's okay also to. I don't have to do just because I was good at it. Doesn't mean I have to keep doing it.
Yeah.
And like
Listen, I'm a great salesperson.
Yeah.
And I hope to never have to work on a sales floor ever again. I'm great at it.
Yes.
But,
yes. I do a lot of sales in my day job and I feel the same exact way. It's funny trying to like just figure out the path forward, and you have to be willing to experiment and fail. And I think that's the perfectionist part. It's just fear. It's just like, I don't like failing.
Yeah. Well, and as creative people, we're, I think, much more in tune to that fear response, that might be true. It's that desire to be accepted and whatnot. I mean, I think that taps right into that same flow of creative energy. So
I think it's also comes from just like, I love it so much that like, I almost don't, like, believe me, I have made a fool of myself in front of so many hundreds, perhaps thousands of people. Like, I don't want to make music mad at me. Yeah. Do you know what I mean?
Yep.
I don't really care if my, live stream is, if you don't like it, it's if I hear it and I'm like, oh, that's bad.
Well, it's the thing that you love.
Yeah.
You want it to be good.
I dishonored the gods of music.
Yeah.
Which, is perhaps a little, I'm somewhat joking here, obviously.
But still, yeah. I mean, again, it has such a meaningful place.
Yeah.
You want to honor it. Like you got into it because you want to honor it. And
And
so.
I think there is a sense to which, like, if you feel like you could do something, if you feel like you have the ability, I think that's really the center of it. I feel like I have the ability to do something here. I know there's something here that, like, I think it's in me to make something really great. Mm-hmm. And so I think I create a lot of pressure for myself around, like, if it's in me to do something great, I should do the thing that I have the greatest chance of making the greatest thing, because I want to make something that is really. You were talking about people have like a one single that connects. I would absolutely kill for that, right?
Sure.
Like, that would be such an amazing thing just to touch it, you know?
Yep.
And so I think that's kind of where a lot of the struggle comes in, is that I feel two very different poles. And, some people say, like, a guy said, like, effort only makes a difference if you basically do it in the area where you have a natural advantage, or take the thing that seems like play to you and feels like work to other people, and that's where you should focus your work.
Yeah, sure.
Right? So which one is it?
Yeah.
Because in some ways that's the electric guitar.
I mean, we're getting into deep life questions now.
I know.
Existential
Well, I thought you were going to answer them. That's why I'm here.
Yeah.
I thought I was getting answers.
To be continued on that. We'll have to consult and.
I was lied to. I was told all my questions would be resolved by the end of the podcast.
That's how we lure you onto the show, you know.
Yeah, there you go.
Well, so this has like been an epic journey. I just,
Good Lord.
It's hard to bring it back to just as we wind down here, just the simple question of like, you know, you've got the show coming up at Side Yard, which definitely this is not going to be out before. Do you have other shows planned the rest of the summer yet? Are you going to be out and about?
Yeah, I do have.
And we don't need dates now. Just, I mean, we can throw those in the show notes too.
I've got some other. I've got at least one more acoustic show outside here. I love that place.
It's a good spot.
A good spot, and they've been really great to me, and I really enjoy playing there. Playing a show at a place called Hey Nani in Arlington Heights at the end of August. That'll be a band show again. Nice. And I don't have anything else booked past that. I don't know what I'm going to do next, but I am starting to feel the sort of like, okay, like, you know, it took about 6 months of like poking around, and like, I think probably at this point I need to just put it in front of people. You know, there is something really true that like, I'm hoping that some of these gigs will help me. You need the feedback, you know, like they say a songwriter, like, you know, you write a song and like you think it's good, and as soon as you play it for someone else, like it could be your spouse, your kid, like a baby, it doesn't matter. As soon as there's like another sentient being you're playing it for, you immediately know what works and what doesn't. And I don't know why that is, but like I've literally like had recordings I make, you know, and I'm like, that's awesome. And then I go to play it for someone, and like 30 seconds in, I'm like, nope, never mind.
Yep.
So I do think
it creates an awareness, you know?
And there's an energy there.
Yeah.
So I think that's going to be really like, I want to take some of these things, and like, I've been trying real hard to like agonize less and practice more. Yeah. So that like when we hit the stage, like I'm ready to play a country song to the best of my ability, and I'm ready to switch and play like a rock or a blues tune to the best of my ability. Yeah. So that I can sort of be like, does one of these really fly in a way that like feels joyful to me? Mm-hmm. And I'm sure I'll get mixed signals, and I'll be like, I like them both still. I was going to say, the answer's probably going to be both and neither. So, and you know, it's possible that the answer is just like, Jesus Christ, dude, stop trying to simplify everything down to one thing. Just do both. Yeah, but, for some reason, I am unwilling to do that. And I don't know what that's all about. But you'll answer that when I'm here next time. That's right. We'll get back to you on that. This was the long question. And then, that can be the name of this episode, the long question. Yep. And then next time you can give me all of the answers. Yes. No guarantees on that. Definitely read the fine print. So, yeah. Wow. Well, that was, I cannot wait to see what comes out of all this as far as the next project, because, I mean, I think you're definitely journeying towards something. None of us know, including you, what it is yet, but I think there's something down the road for you, and I can't wait to see what that is. Oh, well, thank you. And thank you so much for having me. I don't know why anyone wants to listen to me yap about art, but I guess I do. I mean, I love, there was a reference Robert Plant earlier. Have you ever heard him interviewed anytime? I have not, no. Oh, my God. He is hilarious. Like, there was some interview that I'll send it to you if I can find it. Yeah, please do. Like, they interviewed him. He was talking about, they asked him a question, and it was like sort of like this, where he asked a simple question and you got like a 4-hour answer. Yeah. And it was something about old blue music or something. And he started talking. He went on and on and on and on. And without missing a beat, he goes on and on and on. And he's like, and so you can see I'm an excellent person to sit next to on a long flight. And it's just absolutely, I was like, cracked me up. Yeah. Yes, please do, because I would very much enjoy seeing him, because I don't know him outside of what he puts in the music. So I guess I loved that interview, because I was like, man, this is super nerdy. Yeah. And he went on and on and on, and then so. But that's the thing. I mean, that's why we do this, because to have an understanding of what goes into, so often we hear this final product, but I love to understand what creates that, again, I can't wait to see what all this ends up as. And there's as many different instances there are people, right? Yeah, right. Everybody's process and journey is totally different. I mean, it's something I find in screenwriting, there's, the last project I wrote, I went through like, I don't know, half a dozen of someone else's, method. Yeah.
And then I think maybe somehow in that process crafted my own. I don't know.
Sure,
We'll see on the next project.
Right.
I don't know. But I just remember, so-and-so does it this way. And then next thing I know, I'm doing it someone else's way. And then we got a product out of it.
Yeah.
And, I have no idea what my method's going to be the next time around. We'll see.
Yeah,
So
you got to try on the shirt to see if it fits, right?
That's right. That's right.
And the problem with artists, you kind of have to try it on in front of a lot of people.
And there are no instruction manuals.
Yeah, and they're like, that looks terrible.
Yeah.
You're like, yep, all right.
Yep.
Put it back on the rack.
Yeah. All right. So Matt Lenny,
Yes.
we will throw some links up for the current album and your socials and website and all that stuff, and then keep us posted on what's going on.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. This was super fun.
You have been listening to Anywhere the Needle Drops, a product of Red Chuck Productions. Be sure to keep tabs on everything going on with this show and everything else Red Chuck over at redchuckproductions.com or by following us at Red Chuck Productions on social media. Special thanks to Hero Jr. for our theme music. You can check them out, listen to their songs, and see where they're going to be over at herojrmusic.com. That's HEROJRMUSIC.com. Also, special thanks to Paul Clemson, our sound engineer and producer. And while you're at it, make sure you visit the websites and Bandcamps and shows of all of our guests. If you want local music, if you want independent music, or any kind of art, you've got to support them. So give musicians and artists your money. We will see you at the next episode. Until then, here's to life.
Could I, what?